Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I found a brilliant reflection given by Bishop Barron on Jesus. Now, he does it live on air while he's talking to Father Mitch Pacwa. I like that name. So let's go ahead and listen to what Bishop Barron has to say. And then afterwards, if you care what I have to say, I will have a few reflections.
Now, one of the things that, besides the approach that you take that, invites people in because of its beauty, there's also the importance of the content. For instance, you begin by focusing on who Jesus Christ is. You ask that question. You also go into other key figures of the faith. You have one video just on the Blessed Mother.
Yeah.
You deal with Peter and Paul.
Yeah.
And, so what are some of the themes that you wanted to get across about our Lord Jesus Christ?
Yeah, and you're right that I wanted to start with Jesus. I think if Christian theology gets off the ground in any other way, it becomes problematic. You have to begin with Jesus Christ, and then you can connect everything to him. He's like a rose window. If he's in the center, the rest will fall into harmony. You start somewhere else, the project will become skewed. So I wanted to begin with him. And you saw it a little bit in that trailer. I wanted to begin with the distinctiveness of Jesus. My generation got an awful lot of the language of a domesticated Jesus, I would say. Jesus, who's like a lot of other religious teachers, like a lot of other gurus, I can find him inspiring and so on. But see, that's to miss Jesus, because Jesus' novelty is that he spoke and acted in the person of God.
You see, that's one of the things that you really bring out.
Yeah.
He is not like Muhammad, Moses, Buddha, or any of these other people. There is something radically different.
That's right.
How would you put that into words?
Well, just that. I mean, and I say it to the credit of the Buddha and Muhammad and so on. They're not drawing attention to themselves. I mean, Muhammad would say, this revelation I've received, I want you to know it. Or the Buddha would say, there's a path I found, I want you to walk it. I benefited from it, maybe you will too. The Buddha, in fact, drew attention away from himself in a certain way. Then there's Jesus. Now, again, say what you want about him, whether you believe him or not. There's the claim of Jesus. The question is not, what do people think about my teaching? The question is, who do people say that I am? And that's because throughout the Gospels, he consistently says and does the things that only God could say and do. Therefore, you've got to make a choice about him. And I'm arguing there with C.S. Lewis and many others that Jesus compels a choice the way the other founders don't.
Right.
And again, I'm not putting the other founders down. They just don't compel the choice the way Jesus does, because of the way he speaks and acts.
And you will see, for instance, in Buddhism, that there is a devotion to the Buddha.
Yeah.
In Islam, there is an extraordinarily high respect and love for Muhammad.
Yeah.
But in Christianity, it's something else.
It is, and one of the clues, as you well know, in the early church, the preoccupation with the ontology of Jesus. Who is he? What's his being?
What do you mean by ontology?
The being of someone. What makes up the existence of someone? So we get up as Catholics every Sunday and we say, Jesus Christ, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made. We're making ontological claims about him, about his being, where a Buddhist wouldn't fuss about the ontology of the Buddha. Right. A Muslim would not fuss about the ontology of Muhammad, even granting all the respect and so on. And that tells you something distinctive about Christianity. And it goes right back to Caesarea Philippi, to who do people say that I am, and to the way that Jesus distinctively spoke and acted, which compels this decision. As he himself said, either you're with me or you're against me. And that's why, because he makes you choose how you stand vis-a-vis him. And I think that's the starting point of Christianity.
Right.
How do you stand vis-a-vis Jesus? If he is who he says he is, as I say in that clip, then you have to give your life to him.
I just wanted to pause the video really quick so that I could ask you guys for a little bit of support. Me and my wife have a mission to Brazil that we would really, really like to go on next year, and we need funding to make that happen. So there is a GoFundMe link in the description below. We need quite a few monthly supporters. So if you could support monthly, 20, 30, whatever bucks you can support, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
If he's not who he says he is, he's actually a bad man. That's C.S. Lewis's argument.
Right.
The old tradition had it, aut Deus, aut malus homo. Either he's God or he's a bad man. And that's the choice that he compels.
And this one of the things that when you do your video on the Blessed Virgin Mary,
Yeah.
you also make it very clear that all the statements and
Yeah.
the conciliar points that are made at Ephesus, which you do a nice shot at that
Yeah.
church in Ephesus,
very moving to be
where
there.
where
Yeah.
the doctrine of the Theotokos
Yeah.
was defined.
Yeah.
You always make the point that the things said about Mary are really to go back to Jesus.
Right. And I quote Fulton Sheen there that Mary's light is always reflected light, like the light of the moon. And see, you can look at the moon in some ways more easily. The sun is so bright you can't take it in, but the moon you can gaze at in a contemplative way. So in a similar way, we can gaze at the Blessed Mother, but it's a reflected light from her son. So all the claims that we make about her doctrinally are meant to be really Christological claims, finally.
Statements about Jesus Christ.
Yeah, to say that she's the mother of God, well, it's saying something extraordinary about her, but it's also witnessing to the incarnation, that Jesus truly is God.
See, and a lot of people think, and as a matter of fact, the one that they were arguing about, Nestorius, used the argument that the statement that Mary is the mother of God, or the Theotokos,
Yeah.
means that she must be God.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people still try to make that argument. That's not the point, is it?
No, it's actually interesting. In Ephesus, as you know, there's that great temple to the goddess,
Diana.
And so the claim is made sometimes, they just transplanted the ancient, belief in the goddess Diana now to the goddess Mary. No, she's the mother of God, and that makes all the difference. She's not a goddess. She's a human being, but she's the mother of the one who is God.
Right.
And therefore, it's a Christological claim, a claim about Jesus. And so we made that point in Ephesus that there's an interesting play here. This is the place of Diana, but we're not dealing with a new Diana here. We're not dealing with a new goddess, but with the mother of God.
Right.
But I love that, you're right, the film in the ruins of the basilica there in Ephesus, I found very moving. And to recall that when they made that declaration of Theotokos, the people, the common people, had a torchlight parade. I mean, they rejoiced in this title of Mary. So the theologians came around to saying it correctly eventually, but the people had that deep sense about Mary.
All right, we'll go ahead and stop it there. I think there are many different things that I find extremely fascinating about this reflection that Bishop Barron gives on Jesus, and he also tethers it to Mary as well. One of the things that I love as a Protestant on the outside looking in with Bishop Barron is what he calls his unwavering Christocentrism. This centered this centered focus on Jesus Christ and how everything else illumines and flows from him. Growing up in an evangelical church, you don't have disrespect for Mary, but you don't have anything like a veneration. And it's precisely this view on Mary, for example, that has been very helpful for me to see that historical view of Theotokos, that she is the mother of God. And further, it helps you to understand why the incarnation is so important. It grounds the incarnation within within flesh, right? And how important that aspect of the ontological makeup of Jesus is. So I'm very familiar, as many people are, with this kind of line of argument from C.S. Lewis. I think C.S. Lewis actually gets it from G.K. Chesterton. I think he got it from reading G.K. Chesterton's works. And as Bishop Barron mentions here, you can actually go farther in the tradition, and it's actually in Latin. I am not going to try to quote the Latin here. But it's this idea that Jesus compels a choice. As C.S. Lewis put it, he's either liar, lunatic, or Lord. You can't just say that Jesus is a nice teacher or a good man, because if you pay attention to what he says, you would think he's either lying and is just trying to deceive, or he's a lunatic. He's being honest, but he's crazy, or his claims are actually true, and that would make him, of course, Lord. What was the interesting connection that I had never heard before, though, however, is when Bishop Barron talks about how Christianity reflects and muses on the ontology of Jesus. And I've never really thought about it in that way before. This approach of seeing the distinctness of Christianity because we spend so much time reflecting on who is Jesus. Buddhists don't really reflect on who is Buddha. They reflect on what he taught and they try to emulate him, but they're not reflecting on the ontology of who he is. They're not talking about how there was a mystical, divine nature of Buddha wedded to his human nature. You know what I mean? Why in the world do Christians do that? Well, it's precisely because what Jesus Christ claims about himself. And I guess one of the ways that I would want to connect this to is just how radical, how odd that is. How it actually takes the Holy Spirit in people to propagate that message and to clearly illumine Jesus and who he is, and for people to actually have faith in the claims of what he said and who he is and what he has done, if I got that out correctly. We need to partake of the divine life. And one of the great things about partaking in the divine life is that you begin to see others, like Mary. Obviously, she's a saint. I'm not, but she is human, right? But you can see her in the light of Christ. Be thinking about that because Jesus said that when you do something for another person, you're really doing it for me. Jesus just illumines reality in a way that no other teacher can, precisely because of who he is, his ontology. And that was an interesting line of argumentation that I had never heard before connected to this C.S. Lewis way of talking and compelling a choice around Christ. Very fascinating. All right, let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.